Parasites exist almost everywhere in nature. They are organisms that survive by living on or inside another organism, known as a host, and using that host for food, shelter, or reproduction. Unlike predators, parasites usually do not kill their host immediately. Instead, they often rely on the host staying alive long enough for the parasite to grow, reproduce, and spread. Parasites can be found in nearly every ecosystem on Earth and infect almost every type of living creature, including animals, plants, and humans. Some are microscopic and invisible to the naked eye, while others can grow large enough to see clearly. Scientists classify parasites into different types based on where they live in the host's body, how they spread, and how they interact with their host. To understand how these organisms work, it helps to start with the simplest forms and gradually move toward the more complex parasites found in nature. Level 0. Ectoparasites. The most basic type of parasite is the ectoparasite. The term ecto means outside, which describes where these parasites live. Ectoparasites live on the surface of their host's body rather than inside it. They attach to the skin, fur, feathers, or outer tissues and feed from there. Many ectoparasites feed on blood, skin, or other bodily fluids. Because they live on the outside of the host, they are often easier to detect than internal parasites. Common examples of ectoparasites include fleas, lice, ticks, and mites. These organisms attach themselves to animals or humans and feed by piercing the skin and drawing blood or consuming small pieces of tissue. Fleas, for example, are small jumping insects that often infest mammals such as dogs, cats, and rodents. They bite the host's skin and feed on blood, which can cause itching and irritation. Ticks are another well-known ectoparasite. They attach firmly to the skin and can remain feeding for several days. During that time, they may transmit diseases from one host to another. One reason ectoparasites are particularly important is that they can act as disease carriers. As they move from host to host, they may transfer bacteria, viruses, or other pathogens. For example, ticks are known to spread diseases such as Lyme disease, while fleas historically spread the bacteria responsible for the Black Death during the Middle Ages. Ectoparasites usually spend most or all of their life cycle on the outside of the host. However, some species may leave the host temporarily to reproduce or develop before returning to feed again. Even though they live externally, ectoparasites can still have significant effects on their hosts, including irritation, infection, and the spread of disease. Level 1. Endoparasites. While ectoparasites live on the outside of a host, endoparasites live inside the host's body. The term endo means inside, and these parasites spend much or all of their life cycle within the tissues, organs, or body cavities of their host. Endoparasites can be far more difficult to detect because they are hidden within the body. Many endoparasites live in the digestive system, where they absorb nutrients from the food the host eats. Others invade the bloodstream, muscles, lungs, or even the brain. These parasites may cause a wide range of symptoms depending on where they live and how they affect the host's body. One well-known group of endoparasites is worms. Parasitic worms, also called helminths, include several different types, such as roundworms, tapeworms, and flukes. Tapeworms are particularly well adapted to life inside the digestive tract. They attach to the walls of the intestine using specialized structures and absorb nutrients directly through their bodies. Some tapeworms can grow to several meters in length while living inside their host. Another type of endoparasite is protozoa, which are microscopic, single-celled organisms. Despite their tiny size, protozoan parasites can cause serious diseases. For example, the parasite responsible for malaria lives inside human red blood cells and is transmitted through mosquito bites. Other protozoan parasites infect the digestive system and can cause severe intestinal illness. Because endoparasites live inside the body, they often have complex life cycles that involve multiple stages and sometimes multiple hosts. A parasite may begin its life in one host, then spread to another species before reaching its final host where it reproduces. Endoparasites illustrate how deeply parasites can integrate themselves into the biology of their hosts, often evolving specialized adaptations that allow them to survive inside living organisms. Level 2. Parasitoids. Parasitoids represent a different type of parasitic strategy. Unlike most parasites, which try to keep their host alive for as long as possible, parasitoids eventually kill their host as part of their life cycle. In this sense, they exist somewhere between parasites and predators. Parasitoids are most commonly found among insects, particularly certain species of wasps and flies. These insects lay their eggs on or inside another organism, usually another insect. When the eggs hatch, the larvae begin feeding on the host's tissues. At first, the larvae typically consume non-essential tissues, so the host remains alive. This allows the developing parasitoids to continue feeding safely inside the host's body. As they grow larger, they eventually consume vital organs, which ultimately kills the host. One well-known example involves parasitoid wasps that target caterpillars. The wasp injects eggs into the caterpillar's body. The larvae then grow inside the caterpillar, while feeding on its internal tissues. Eventually, the larvae emerge and form cocoons outside the dying host. Parasitoids play an important role in ecosystems because they help regulate populations of other insects. In agriculture, some parasitoid species are even used as biological pest control agents to manage crop pests without using chemical pesticides. Although parasitoids technically kill their hosts, their strategy still fits within the broader concept of parasitism because their larvae depend on a host organism for development. Level 3. Protozoan parasites. Protozoan parasites are among the smallest parasites known, but they can also be some of the most dangerous. Unlike parasitic worms or insects, protozoa are single-celled organisms. Each parasite consists of just one microscopic cell, yet that single cell can perform all the functions needed for life, including movement, feeding, and reproduction. Because of their tiny size, protozoan parasites can invade parts of the body that larger parasites cannot easily reach. Many live inside the bloodstream, internal organs, or even inside individual cells of their host. One of the most well-known protozoan parasites is the organism that causes malaria. This parasite lives part of its life cycle inside mosquitoes and another part inside human red blood cells. When an infected mosquito bites a person, the parasite enters the bloodstream and begins reproducing inside the body. As it multiplies, it destroys red blood cells, which leads to the fever, chills, and weakness associated with the disease. Malaria has affected human populations for thousands of years and remains one of the most widespread parasitic diseases in the world. Other protozoan parasites infect the digestive system. Some live in contaminated water or food and enter the body when a person consumes them. Once inside the intestines, they multiply rapidly and can cause severe stomach illness, diarrhea, and dehydration. Because protozoa reproduce quickly, infections can spread rapidly if sanitation and clean water are not available. Many protozoan parasites have complex life cycles involving multiple hosts. They may move between animals, insects, and humans at different stages of development. This ability to survive in several different organisms helps them spread efficiently through ecosystems. Even though they are microscopic, protozoan parasites demonstrate how a single cell can evolve into a highly specialized organism capable of infecting and surviving inside other living beings. Level 4. Helminths, parasitic worms. Helminths are among the largest parasites that infect animals and humans. Unlike protozoa, which are single-celled organisms, helminths are multicellular worms that can grow to considerable sizes. Some species measure only a few millimeters long, while others can grow several meters inside their host's body. Despite their size, these parasites are highly specialized for living within another organism. Helminths are usually divided into three major groups: roundworms, tapeworms, and flukes. Roundworms, also known as nematodes, have long cylindrical bodies and are extremely common in nature. Some species live freely in soil and water, while others infect animals or humans as parasites. Parasitic roundworms often live in the intestines, where they absorb nutrients from the host's food. In some cases, they can also migrate through the bloodstream and invade organs such as the lungs or liver. Tapeworms are another well-known group of parasitic worms. These parasites live inside the digestive tract and attach themselves to the walls of the intestine using specialized structures at the head of the worm. Their bodies consist of many repeating segments, each capable of producing eggs. As the tapeworm grows, new segments form, while older segments break off and leave the host's body, spreading eggs into the environment. Some tapeworms can grow several meters long, making them some of the largest parasites that infect humans. Flukes are a third group of helminths with flattened bodies and complex life cycles. Many flukes infect animals that live near freshwater environments. Their life cycles often involve multiple hosts, including snails, fish, or mammals. These parasites may invade organs such as the liver, lungs, or blood vessels, depending on the species. Helminths are well adapted to life inside the body. Many have developed ways to avoid detection by the host's immune system, allowing them to survive for years within a single host. Although infections can sometimes go unnoticed for long periods, heavy infestations may lead to serious health problems such as malnutrition, organ damage, or intestinal blockage. Level 5. Blood parasites. Some parasites specialize in living directly in the bloodstream. These organisms are known as blood parasites, and they rely on the host's circulatory system to spread throughout the body. Blood parasites can be microscopic organisms like protozoa or larger parasites that pass through the bloodstream during certain stages of their life cycle. The bloodstream provides parasites with easy access to nutrients and allows them to travel to many different parts of the body. However, living in the blood also means they must survive constant exposure to the host's immune defenses. To do this, many blood parasites have evolved ways to hide from or confuse the immune system. Many blood parasites are transmitted through biting insects. Mosquitoes, ticks, and other blood-feeding insects act as vectors that carry parasites from one host to another. When the insect feeds on blood, it may inject parasites into the new host's bloodstream. This method of transmission allows parasites to move efficiently between different organisms. Once inside the bloodstream, these parasites may invade blood cells, organs, or tissues. Some multiply inside red blood cells, while others travel through the lymphatic system. Because blood circulates throughout the entire body, infections can spread widely and affect multiple organs. Blood parasites highlight the intricate relationships that can develop between parasites, hosts, and the insects that carry them. These relationships often involve complex life cycles that depend on multiple species interacting with one another. Level 6. Intracellular parasites. Among the most specialized parasites are those that live inside the cells of their host. These are known as intracellular parasites. Instead of simply living within organs or body cavities, these parasites actually invade individual cells and use the cell's internal machinery to survive and reproduce. Once inside a cell, the parasite may manipulate the host cell's functions to produce nutrients or help it replicate. This strategy allows the parasite to remain hidden from parts of the immune system, since it is effectively sheltered inside the host's own cells. However, it also means the parasite must be extremely well adapted to the biology of the host cell. Intracellular parasites are usually microscopic organisms, such as certain protozoa or bacteria-like parasites. They often spread through body fluids, insect bites, or contaminated food and water. After entering the body, they invade specific types of cells depending on the species. Living inside a host cell offers protection, but it also creates challenges. The parasite must avoid killing the cell too quickly, since it depends on the cell's survival to continue reproducing. Some parasites carefully control how they replicate so that the infected cell continues functioning long enough for the parasite to spread to new cells. This type of parasitism represents one of the most intimate biological relationships between two organisms. By living inside the very cells of another living being, intracellular parasites demonstrate how deeply parasitic organisms can integrate themselves into the biology of their hosts. Level 7. Brood parasites. Brood parasites are a very different kind of parasite because they do not live on or inside the body of their host. Instead, they exploit the parental care of another species. In brood parasitism, an animal lays its eggs in the nest of a different species and leaves the host to raise its young. The host unknowingly invests time, energy, and resources into raising offspring that are not its own. This behavior is most commonly seen in birds. One of the most famous brood parasites is the cuckoo. Instead of building its own nest and raising its chicks, a cuckoo secretly lays its eggs in the nest of another bird species. Often, the cuckoo egg closely resembles the eggs of the host bird, which helps prevent the host from noticing the difference. When the cuckoo chick hatches, it may even push the host's eggs or chicks out of the nest so that it receives all the food brought by the foster parents. Another well-known example is the brown-headed cowbird in North America. Cowbirds lay their eggs in the nests of many different bird species. The host birds then raise the cowbird chick as if it were their own. Because cowbird chicks often grow larger and demand more food, they can sometimes outcompete the host's own young. Brood parasitism is not limited to birds. Some fish and insects also practice similar strategies. Certain insects lay eggs inside the nests of other species so that their larvae are fed and protected by the host colony. This type of parasitism shows how evolution can produce highly unusual survival strategies. Instead of stealing nutrients directly from a host's body, brood parasites exploit the host's behavior and parental instincts. Level 8, Social Parasites. Social parasites are organisms that exploit the social systems of other species, especially insects that live in organized colonies. These parasites infiltrate the colonies of social insects such as ants, bees, or termites and take advantage of the workers that maintain the colony. In many insect colonies, workers gather food, build nests, and care for the young while the queen reproduces. Social parasites take advantage of this system by entering the colony and using the workers to support them. Some parasitic ant species invade the nests of other ants and replace the original queen. Once the invading queen takes control, the worker ants continue performing their normal duties, but now serve the parasitic queen instead. The colony effectively becomes a workforce for raising the parasite's offspring. Other social parasites rely on deception to survive within the colony. They may produce chemical signals that mimic those of the host species. These signals prevent the workers from recognizing the parasite as an intruder. As a result, the parasite is accepted as part of the colony. In some cases, parasitic insects even resemble the appearance of the host species. This physical similarity, combined with chemical mimicry, allows them to live undetected among the host population. Social parasitism highlights how parasites can manipulate not only the biology of a host, but also its social behavior. By infiltrating complex insect societies, these parasites gain access to food, shelter, and protection without having to build or maintain a colony themselves. Level 9, Hyperparasites. At the most extreme level of parasitism are hyperparasites. These are parasites that infect other parasites. In other words, a parasite becomes the host for another parasitic organism. This creates a chain of parasitic relationships where one organism depends on another that is already living off a host. Hyperparasites are surprisingly common in nature, especially among microorganisms. Certain fungi, bacteria, and viruses specialize in infecting parasites rather than infecting the original host organism directly. For example, some fungi infect parasitic insects or parasitic worms, using them as their host. In other cases, viruses may infect protozoan parasites that live inside animals or humans. This means a parasite that is already infecting a host can itself become infected by another organism. These layered relationships show how complex ecosystems can become. A single organism might host multiple parasites at once, and some of those parasites may themselves be infected by additional parasites. Hyperparasites can sometimes benefit the original host because they weaken or kill the parasite infecting it. In this way, a parasite of a parasite may indirectly help the organism at the bottom of the chain. This final level of parasitism demonstrates how interconnected biological relationships can be. Even organisms that depend on hosts for survival are not always safe from being exploited themselves. Conclusion: parasites are incredibly diverse and exist in nearly every environment on Earth. Some live on the outside of their host's body, while others invade organs, blood, or even individual cells. Some parasites steal nutrients directly, while others manipulate behavior or exploit social systems to survive. From microscopic protozoa to large parasitic worms and complex behavioral parasites like brood parasites, each type represents a different strategy for survival. Over millions of years, parasites have evolved specialized adaptations that allow them to attach to hosts, avoid immune defenses, and reproduce successfully. Understanding parasites helps scientists learn more about ecology, evolution, and disease. Although parasites are often associated with illness or harm, they also play important roles in regulating populations and shaping ecosystems. By examining the many different types of parasites and how they interact with their hosts, we gain insight into one of the most fascinating and complex relationships found in nature.